myself, I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year, so many men sold away. And I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and faith. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his face. Pleased to meet you, hope you get my name. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. Aloha, how are you? This is Jason Schwartz. I am the host of The Neutral Zone here in Maui. And that was The Hand. Isn't this great? You know, remember I always used to see the Flintstones, and they had little critters come in and do stuff. Well, we are here. I like to think we're public and we're in training for greatness with all the buttons and dials in our life and all the stuff going on. I feel fortunate to be here at KAKU Radio, the voice of Maui, 88.5 FM. I've had this show now 8 weeks. I've been doing shows here for, God, if I say 25 years, I wouldn't be fooling. 25 years, hundreds of shows. And started a radio show, and I've enjoyed this because it happens to be election year. And now that they've got this radio talk mode, I had to get sponsors. And when I went out and got sponsors, I realized that there's a responsibility. I wanted to see exactly. One was TheMauiMiracle.org, and the other was Kama Aina Loans, Cash for Gold, people I know for years. And as I was going through this and realizing how much there is to share, here comes election. I want to think of him as my special field correspondent. This is Nick. I think of him as Nick Fury, like the Sergeant Commando. But actually, he's also Iron Man. He is a man who has so many talents and hidden things. And I needed to explain to you our sponsors' stuff. And I thought, what better way is get someone who's really techno to help me navigate through. TheMauiMiracle.org is a sponsor. So I'm going to play something, but I first want to introduce Nick Drance. This
Aloha.
Is people of Maui and the world. Aloha.
Aloha.
Nick has a background in so many things, but when I first met you, you were singing with me and Louise Lambert.
Right.
Isn't that fun?
Right.
And I saw you in so many different ways, and I saw how much passion you put in and how much love you have for this place. And then when I saw your techno skills, I said, I have to somehow, I'm going to be taking on the world here. I need to be having someone help me understand what's out there. And so as I've been going through Maui Pono Network, watching Sam Small, you've seen some of these people. Deborah talking about smart meters and legalizing hemp, all these things. I wanted someone to help me digest it. And I have a sponsor here that's talking about stuff. So we only have a week till the elections, and that's why you're on here, Nick, to help me show what's going on. This website is our sponsor, TheMauiMiracle.org, and I'm repeating it a few times on purpose because I think it's very important, because in the time we have, I almost can't explain what this is. Nick, I shouldn't even ask you to, or should I?
Sure.
Can you explain? This is what I think this website is.
The Maui Miracle, it's already here. You know, I was talking with Kadar yesterday, and he said, you know, people are waiting for the miracle, and it's already here. It's in front of us, but we don't see it. The miracle is that Maui, being a sacred, special, unique island, the fabric and the character and the health of the land and the people that live here be preserved and maintained as a sacred island that it is. You know, we're the farthest little speck of sand from any other landmass on the planet.
I do know that. It's like 3,280 miles from Los Angeles, which is the model of where I don't think we want to go, but On the website, there's a thing about Los Angelification. How's that
No,
for a
this
word?
is when I first read that, I thought, I'd like to be able to say that word, and I kept repeating it like 5 times, and I know it sounds like ridiculous, but once I got to the point where I could actually say it, I liked saying it. Los Angelesification.
No, I'm not going to even try. We're going to bring him Los Angelesification. What that means to me is, as I was reading, I'm going to play for you in a minute. A thing, I got a letter in the mail. I'm sure it's one. Maybe you got one too. It's basically a statement from people trying to take me to look and see things about this website. It is so filled with information, whether it's about government and rules and how things are, and charters and maps, and voting things, and things about history, and information about real estate and the state and education. And it is a fact. What do we say? It's a fact-finding dream. If you want to know what's going on, this site is just an extraordinary. And the fact that they're my sponsor, I'm very, very proud. It's like, wow. And for the people in our world, we can vote now the same day that we register.
Yeah.
So the power is in hearing this and taking action, because you have the power to vote. And if we're going to save this island, this is, I think you're going to see, is what this website makes me. The more I read it, it started to hurt, and I started to feel pain. And I think it's mostly because I see what's going on. Many of you know, I years ago was talking the same thing, but now we have a chance to save it. So that's what this means to me. I'm really very proud to have them as a sponsor of my show.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm going to take a moment, gather our wits here as we're getting in, and play for you a prepared thing where I read this piece that came in the mail. So hang on a second. TheMauiMiracle.org. A protection plan for the island of Maui is a health and economic necessity right now. According to every government and university study, Maui has well exceeded its carrying capacity. 2 of our mayoral candidates back significant additional real estate investment by mainland and Honolulu-based companies and REITs. Creating sustainability infrastructure that protects the health of the island for residents and tourists should come first. The official 2018 State of Hawaii's Sea Level Rise study indicates sea level rise close to 3 feet in the next 40 to 60 years. It recommends an urban retreat plan starting right now. It recommends creating beaches farther inland to replace ones that will disappear. This is a State of Hawaii report. Urbanization areas along the coast indicated by maps in the county plan are not a good idea. Contamination of upcountry aquifers and the periodic high levels of bacteria in the waters tourists come here to enjoy may potentially be the biggest health and economic risk we face. The State of Hawaii says Maui has 12,000 cesspools which handle untreated human waste. Inadequate sewage treatment is a sleeping giant problem. It should be a priority. It's about the health of residents and our tourist-based economy. Statistically, Maui is among the least affordable places to live in the United States. Adding even more profits for mainland investors and REITs from new retail and commercial development at this time is not fair to the residents of Maui. Visit www.TheMauiMiracle.org. This website provides factual information voters need to be aware of. In 2016, only 23% of registered voters went to the polls. Become more informed and vote. Queen Liliuokalani, Hawaii's last ruling monarch, said, "The way to lose any earthly kingdom is to be inflexible, intolerant, and prejudicial. Another way is to be too flexible, tolerant of too many wrongs, and without judgment at all. It's a razor's edge. It is the width of a blade of peely grass." We have a responsibility to take responsibility. Preserve the health of this sacred island. Believe in the miracle. Be the miracle. www.TheMauiMiracle.org. All right, well, I did that because I didn't want to stand here and read a page letter, but I thought it was really a good letter, and I wasn't reading it for a dramatic pause.
We sound good.
Oh, that's good.
You should have a radio show.
Well, thank you. So should you. You sound really good here, and I'm sure all the people out there are saying, "Oh, who is this good-looking guy here?" You know, when I look at what was just said, and I hear about 22,000, you just corrected me, 22,000 cesspools that aren't being checked, have bacteria, human waste, and what it means to potential water tables and bottled water like Flint, Michigan.
Well, that's
maybe projecting, but
well, it is, it is and it isn't. The Maui Miracle is a positive message about, this beautiful land that we live on, this little speck of sand, and all the sacred aspects of this island that make it unique. We can talk about that in a minute. But, there's some other concerns that we need to look at, and they are not necessarily a problem right now, but if you have something that's important to you, then you have to take care of it. As far as the cesspools go, the word itself is objectionable.
Well, I'm bringing it up only so that 25 years ago, I ran for mayor of Maui. And I said, we can go left, we can go right. I was green, and some labeled me radical.
Yeah.
Now the things they're talking about, I had the head of the council, Junior Moniz, came up to me. He was the head of the gang of 4 or 5 that helped all this happen. And he said, "You were right, Jason, about energy. You were right about everything." I'm not happy to be right.
Right.
But here we are. We now have a sacred land, and that's your focus. But I want to be sure that they don't, because we're going to talk about this website, but there is so much under that information tab on the website.
Yeah.
We're looking, by the way, at a card blow up of something that is TheMauiMiracle.org. When you go on the website, that looks like the website's top. That information has subcategories. They all have subcategories. It's just an amazing job that this website really gives you all the tools you do to be able to say, so who do I want to vote for? And it has its recommendations, but you know what? This is based on values, and you're honoring the sacred. This whole website shares with me. And thank you for helping me do this, Nick, because, this was a lot for me to explain, and I know that I'm kind of picking on you to help me.
Not at all. I have a passion for it. It's easy.
Oh, I know, and that's what I was sharing with everyone.
Yeah.
Your passion about this land, is from all aspects, multicultural, Hawaiian, everything else, that you've really been a champion to me. And so, like I say, you're like Sergeant Fury in the Commandos. You've been a warrior. You're a bunch of people in your group, but you've been a great leader, and I've appreciated the way I've seen you step up. There are groups doing things, and you want to make sure that this is not unheard. Thank you, because when I look at this, give me, if you would say, when I go to Hawaiian history, is there anything there that can really be sacred that you want to deliver in this year? And
well, there was some little bit of controversy last week about Hawaiian independence and any statements on the website about sovereignty, et cetera, et cetera. And, that's a separate subject. I don't want to get into, something like that that's separate from preserving the island. But when we preserve the island, and I don't want to detract from the economic significance of preserving the island, because that's really, at election time, that's probably the most important thing in people's minds. But when you preserve the island and the economic side of it, you're also recognizing the quality of life that we enjoy here today and the past. The heritage of the Hawaiian Kingdom is absolutely spectacular. And it's illustrated pretty well in the history section. I have to tell you that I think maybe there are aspects of Hawaiian culture that are more significant than this, like the connection between the people and the land, and how the people in upcountry made reeds and grew things and so forth, and the people at the beaches fished and made canoes and things out of those materials, and they interacted in a symbiotic way, but they were one with the land. And that things like that and the values of people, how they got along and so forth, those are really the most significant parts of Hawaiian culture. And, to some extent, I'm not an expert on that, and to some extent, those things are maybe a little bit too precious for me to talk about. But short of that, one thing I learned from the website is very, very interesting. I had no idea that by, say, 1875, all the most powerful people on the planet, kings and queens of Europe and so forth, had established diplomatic relations and treaties with the Kingdom of Hawaii. And of course, in those days, Queen Victoria was the most powerful person on earth.
England.
By far. And perhaps even to this day, I suppose, the only other nation in the history of the planet that would rival the power of Great Britain during Queen Victoria's day is the United States. And during her Golden Jubilee, she invited the Hawaiian contingent, and Queen Liliuokalani wrote in her diary that she was greeted by one of the Queen's carriages, a band, a whole military contingent. I mean, the same pomp and circumstance that the King and Queen of France or Spain received when they arrived.
Absolutely. That's why this history section, for people that are looking at it, that is really a great job. I took a class at the university here, and it filled me, and it was great because a lot of the information that I see in here is similar in that it's giving a foundation to understanding that many of us really don't understand what's happened to the Hawaiian Kingdom and people and our timing in history. We happen to be just a few decades after the Hawaiians were allowed to speak their language, and they could openly do things that were completely repressed, and things were taken away. And like, you go to sleep at night, I was looking at some notes, you go to sleep at night, you wake up in the morning and you find that the guy that's there you're helping out now has military and has taken over your kingdom. And you try to, it's that's a whole section that's fantastic. This website, I don't mean to go back to it all the time, but
well,
it's so rich with stuff. I want to be able to talk about issues, which we do, but I want to be sure that people go to the website.
Well, it's full of all kinds of information. The history section is quite, it's quite amazing, and it's all, like everything on the website, it's properly documented and cited.
Right.
It's college level course information,
like
or government reports. It's not like somebody else's opinion.
Well, when I went to it, there was the charter, the rules, the Molokai plan, maps. These issues are so big. That's why I say, like, when you can just use 3 words and say, carry over. We're carrying capacity. We're over carrying capacity. You know what that means? That means tourism, if it grows much more, or it's already more than we can handle. So where Ohana candidates, everyone thinks they're one thing. They're only for affordable housing. No, there's carrying capacity of everything. We won't have water. We won't have nothing.
Well,
and we're already at that place.
Interestingly enough, even the Maui County says that we are over capacity with regard to the proportion of residents to tourists. And this is one of the things that is important in the website, is that if people really want to find out what's what, they're going to see government reports, university reports, even Maui County, state of Hawaii. You know, it's not that these are actual factual reports, and they all point to the need for us to take into consideration things like the number of cesspools that we have on the island. And the state of Hawaii, for example, says that upcountry aquifer is considered a priority right now. And that's because of, you know, of cesspools. And
A priority. The state says it's a priority. So
well, we don't get a lot, you know, that doesn't get a lot of publicity, but that's not to mention homes along the coast have cesspools as well.
Well, and that's a whole other issue that mentioned there about sea level rise. Does anyone understand what that means? That means if you own beachfront property, you're going to be having less of it, and now they will be moving the beach past your house to a point where there won't be a house. So all the plans that we're making now, why isn't that something we hear all the time? Why isn't it more present?
Well,
Is that what
because
we're talking about?
because it's not profitable. You know,
Well-
right now, actually it could be, because we need, you know, what the website refers to as sustainability infrastructure. You know, we need to be building a lot of things, but building more structures near the coast, or building more structures that basically are based on unsustainable things that we can't even provide for ourselves now.
How about our roads? I mean, we can start with the basics. We're so overbuilt.
Well, the roads or the traffic.
In Kihei, Maui, I don't know where you are, but if you're in Kihei, Maui, you know the corner of the Upper Highway and Welakahau. There was a terrible accident. A couple of people lost their lives, and they now have stopped anyone from making a left-hand turn. And this is not here. This is the traffic flow and what's going to happen on the lower road, and what would happen when we know the water levels rise when we have a storm. Imagine now, as the sea levels rise, these are scary numbers here, and we're not talking about slowly.
Here,
You remember Atlantis and Lemuria?
well, that's Jason.
I mean,
that's a little.
I'm
that's
pushing
extreme.
it, but the truth is, our society and the whole world, if a hurricane comes across a volcano, the acid rain and the potential damage, these are not things that are small. So here, when I hear things like coastline, and they already know, they know that it's going to go up from a half a foot to 1 foot. I'm looking at this count. You can explain it better than me. This is Ray Charles, by the way. These are very thick glasses.
No, you know, the point is this, that we want to preserve the fabric and the character of the island for its residents that live here now, past and future. We also want to protect our ability to be a self-sustaining economy. So right now we focus on tourist revenue, and that's important, and we need to maintain that. But at the same time, we need to maintain the longevity of our ability to enjoy that revenue from that source.
You know, this is like deja vu to me, because it feels like I'm interviewing me 25
Why don't they
years
listen?
ago. 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Honestly, when a lot of this could have been a different direction. That influence about the Hawaiian, let me not forget that. You know, the reason that the Hawaiians aren't here on this show now is because I wanted to bring you on to help me explain this website.
The Prime Minister.
But I had the Prime Minister scheduled because, yes, there's all kinds of levels. It's like the internet. The more you dig, or this website, the more you dig, the more you see. The more you see, the more you know. And with all these choices in the world, that's why I have a logo that's a simple circle with a lightning bolt, because we're in a world that we have to, this information is so valuable, what you just said. And I've been talking 25 years. I had a Maui Arts and Music Association here, done what, 600-700 shows. Here we are now. This is critical time. This website really makes people know, hey, if you can vote, if you're breathing and you read this and it moves you, I know you have mentioned to me that the candidates, that's part of the site, but that's just sort of after you sort of stop breathing from what you see.
Well, you know, when you were talking about, you know, environmental things, it was an idea, and it was like a goal, and it was some lofty idea and so forth. for the future. But the point, when I talk about that, my point about it is that it's actually an economic necessity, and this is something that people can find out more about on the website, is that the things that the state of Hawaii and Maui County even and university studies, the things that those people's reports say point to things that jeopardize our tourist economy and
our very way of life.
And the health of the people that live here.
Yes,
And
whether
so,
it's the Kingdom of Hawaii or not.
right.
You know, when I was doing it was a dream, is what you're saying.
Right, and now
it was
it's a
in the future.
necessity.
And I used to say we're ahead of our time. Now, if we're lucky, we're just in time. No, I think that we're at that point.
You know, the miracle is that it's going to work out if we get out and vote.
That is the miracle. The miracle is that enough of us wake up to the fact that we need radical attention. There are no sides. Radical attention to what's going on Maui, and this site really is fantastic.
But radical, you know,
does
it's
radical
easy.
sound weird?
Well, yeah, because it's really easy for voters. All you have to do is, you know, you can read this website, you can go get information from other sources, but in the end, twice a year, 2 hours, vote. Now, if only 23% or so of voters are showing up at the primary, and the primary this year happens to be very important, you know, that just doesn't make any sense. So if you live here and you love the island, and you and your family and your friends enjoy all the wonderful things that the island blesses us with, that's worth giving a little bit of aloha back to the island. And doing that at voting time. Like you mentioned something about the Ohana candidates. People think, oh, you know, somebody associated the word progressives with them.
We're going to have to come back to this, Nick. We have to take a station break, but we'll come back to that about explaining what we... Well, we're here on the Neutral Zone on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui. I'm Jason Schwartz, here with Nick Drance, explaining TheMauiMiracle.org. We're going to have some PSAs from our sponsors. Thank you, sponsors. We're blessed, and you're blessed to have them helping us help you. Thank you for joining us. Here we go.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad!
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's Shaggy, critical thinker, problem solver, guy just left of normal and sane, but always centered in common sense, and with a brand new showtime. Catch me Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. and then for the replay, 7 p.m. immediately after Democracy Now! For news, headlines, and a bit of common sense, it's the Shaggy Jenkins Show Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. on KAKU. KAKU would like to thank the underwriters and sponsors that make the Voice of Maui possible.
Doorway into Light is a nonprofit organization on Maui. We operate Hawaii's only nonprofit funeral home and its only certified green funeral home. Since 2006, Doorway into Light has been supporting the dying and their families and offering community presentations and workshops throughout Hawaii and the mainland.
Please support the businesses that, through their generous donations, empower free speech in the Maui community.
Hawaii Youth Service Directory is online at 808youth.com. We envision a Hawaii where all youth are connected to the support they need to walk a pono path towards health, happiness, and abundance. 808youth.com is a free, easy-to-use online directory funded by the Office of Youth Services. If you're looking for a family-friendly event, check out our events calendar and connect with us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Well, okay. We're back, and we're at the Neutral Zone. I'm here with Nick Drance. We're talking about TheMauiMiracle.org. I'm Jason Schwartz. You know, there was a time when I thought I was on radio. Man, I was on radio. Now you're on radio, and you're on Facebook Live, so you're really on television. But you're hampered because you can't put other things up. This website, I wish we could do that for you. Maybe we'll do a TV show of it and add stuff in. But, you know, when I was reading this, it gave me memory of a movie I saw years ago. There's a movie called Chinatown. I don't know if it's before some of your time, but you go look it up. It's Faye Dunaway and Jack Nicholson, and it was about Los Angeles-ification.
Well, actually, when that movie was happening, Los Angeles was really just, you know, Hollywood. The San Fernando Valley was a bunch of orange groves and so forth, and Los Angeles was like a small, very small town. And interesting that you mention it is that once you know, water was brought from the North Sierras to Los Angeles, that's when Los Angelesification happened, and L.A. became L.A. Now, there's nothing wrong with, you know, development on the mainland.
And there's nothing wrong with development here if done
Properly.
appropriately and smartly. And
Right.
and I want to add, and I watched the local people for at least 25 years I'm here talk about affordable housing and rely on the state to start doing it every year. And then it got to be, oh, we're 6,000 units behind. Oh, we're 8,000 units behind. And then we watch the rents go up, and then we see everything happen. And then there's a switch to commercial. It's like, look around. Los Angelesification.
Well, we are
happening.
the least affordable housing market in the United States of America.
Wow.
And this again, you know, we have to maintain our business economy here. The county needs money to function.
Sure.
We need people that are paying taxes, which is, you know, hotels, tourists, sales tax and so forth. We need to have that revenue, and affordable housing is a critical problem right now. But in a few years, if we don't take action now, then we're going to be jeopardizing our tourism revenue. And this is the point that I want to make, is that in this race right now, for mayor, for example, the two of the candidates are backed by big business, real estate, and businesses in Honolulu. Now, that's a fact, the way it was reported in the Maui News.
All right.
And the one candidate is more, you know, grassroots. Her donations come from a greater number of small people. But
May I be clear, because when you say the word "her," I only think there's one lady running for Ellie Cochran.
Well, you're not allowed to say.
I can say Ellie Cochran.
Well,
I'm sure she would like me to say that. But that's who you mean, I'm guessing,
well,
right?
yeah, I mean, I was thinking, if you don't like that person, you actually could vote alphabetically in alphabetical order for the mayoral candidates, and I'd like the first one in alphabetical order to be mayor, because I think that she's highly qualified. I know her pretty well. People have worked with her, and in my point, I don't want to focus on a particular mayoral candidate.
No, but what you say is, I look at that in one more way, and that is, 25 years that I've been here, more, 30, I've watched different groups that many have been calling and have been called radical, that have been working diligently, continuously, holding back what would have already been a whitewash of this island. We'd already be Los Angeles.
Well, you're right. There's something to be said. We have to honor.
Team. And if there were a mayor like your woman candidate, she wouldn't be alone. And that's the thing about all of us. We are the ones that are empowered to make the difference and to do, and our government should be helping us do that we realize we need to do. This website is it was so dramatic in sharing with me the volume of activity going on here. It's staggering. People don't realize what's already been in the plans. You have mentioned, and I looked at these maps, and I have had no time to really study this, what it deserves. But in anything that I'd be interested in, it seemed like it was there. It led me in just amazing directions.
Well, and that's the point, is that, like I say, in this mayoral race right now, the difference is between an emphasis on additional development, which of course that money really doesn't help the residents. It doesn't help really small business owners who live on Maui and so forth. The two of the three top mayoral candidates, two of them are backed by big business. It means that they are going to really push big business and development as a priority, and the other one has what I consider, many would say, is a more balanced agenda. But this is the point. The island cannot sustain a lot more development, and if you have a person that's focused in office and they're contingent, and actually the rest of the Maui News endorsed one of those other candidates who's at the end of the alphabet. I don't think I'm supposed to say candidate names, but in any case, but his entire slate of people are, quote, pro-business. But just because you're an Ohana candidate doesn't mean that you're like too progressive or you're a radical or you're an environmentalist.
Yeah, that's the thing I tried to stress the last show. When I see the Maui Pono Network guy was on, his name is Paul.
Yep.
And the Maui Pono Network did an exhausting look at candidate with 40 people evaluating these candidates. And when I see what's going on, I realize there's so much more of local. When they say these are people from off island, if you look, you'll see they're all local people. Everything they're talking are local people who are waking up and are the local voice. And I don't know if you heard me there, but this is not an invasion of somebody else. This is local people crying for help while the mainland is coming and putting its money and development here on an island. If these shores had a chute that could send all our waste and all our problems down the chute,
well,
I wouldn't worry.
It doesn't. It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. And so when we have any waste, why do we have any waste from our waste? Why are we doing what we do? Because the priorities are short-term and development. That's what Nick
and
is
this
talking.
And this is the problem.
Los Angelesification. I use it now too many times.
It's fun. It feels. It's
when you fly from Molokai needs help, by the way. Everybody critical. When you fly from Molokai to Maui, it feels like you're flying into New York City. It's extraordinary to see. We are developed past the point of carrying. That means, like, stop. Don't do any more to bring more than we have. Let's manage with what we have and see what we can do to make it all work for all of us.
Well, that's the point, is that if you already can't process your sewage, if you're already contaminating your aquifers with nitrogen, the state of Hawaii says bacteria is around the corner. We have traffic problems in Paia, which now looks like Los Angeles sometimes. If those are the problems that we have right now, God forbid we have a bacteria bloom on our beaches, and then that makes national news. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that it can't happen.
Let me just quickly interrupt, because I want to give you a playback again. When I got here in 88, 89, 90, there was this issue about algae bloom. Algae bloom. That means the reefs were dying, and they didn't know what was happening, and they were studying. They spent $200,000, and they spent it after that, and they gave the conclusion that it was runoffs from the fields. That was 1988, 89, 90. But there was a backpile of these chemicals that were already purchased. They already knew it was toxic, but they had them. They couldn't buy any more, but they had enough to go on for many years. And we're now seeing, health-wise and all kinds of ways, things. We have to, it's just extraordinary. I'm hearing things coming again, like we talked about Los Angeles and disease, and things are going here that are toxic.
Those are kind of negative things, Jason.
I'm bringing them up because of the fact of the voting. I think that, and then I'll get off of it. But I really feel really important is that people recognize how serious this is.
Well, but I don't want to make it like a bummer. It's a miracle. It's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing that
the miracle is us.
Is that we are, aware that if we vote people into office who focus on real estate development, and that's what they're focused on, we're going in the wrong direction. A balanced approach is right, but what I think the point is that you can't mortgage off our future. for short-term profits today. It's like charging money on a credit card that you know you're never going to be able to pay off. And when the day comes, at a certain point, you're going to go bankrupt, and you're not going to be able to, sustain yourself. And this is the issue that we're talking about. If there's an election, one side is pro-development, which is already out of hand if you look at the Los Angelesification of the island. There's pictures that are side by side. Here's the new Wailuku development for $44 million.
It's an amazing
and here's
site.
the Kihei shopping center on both sides in the wetlands that they moved. Those pictures side by side look exactly like the Grove in Los Angeles, and this is what the developers of these budgeted and planned businesses areas on Maui, they're identical to Los Angeles.
I'm only stopping you because we have precious time here, and you got it by now. TheMauiMiracle.org. A lot of what Nick is saying is here, if not all of it. And, that's the reason I brought him on, to help me explain this site. But the fact is, these are things that are because we love Maui, and we love the sacred things about it. As our society has gotten faster and quicker and moving,
Right,
we
we're
are
busy.
forgetting the
Right.
most important basic thing. We're giving our future away to something before we know what we are doing. Well, we're now waking up, and what we say, I said just in time. You say, well, maybe not. I think this is the right time. That's why I thought to have you on. More important than the Kingdom of Hawaii, no matter who owns or controls this place. If we don't stop what's happening here, we are in a place, I believe, that we're going to be Los Angeles until we are no more. Because if tourism goes away, because we destroy it through overdevelopment more than we got now, it's only ourselves to blame. And we don't want to be blaming nobody.
We want
'Cause
a
we love
balance.
this place.
We want a balanced situation, and Ohana candidates are balanced. They're not about anti-business, and they're not about complete environmentalism. These things that we're talking about are issues, but people have some people have a misconception about what those people are about. But in fact, they are pro-business. The difference is that they're not short-term at the risk of our future. That's the difference.
When I hear the word Ohana candidates, I was talking to the guy last week, and I said, when he talked about someone as a good old boy, I don't know how much is by design and how much is by accident. Some of it is clearly by design. When Nick has pointed out to me different trails of ownership, you can't help but notice that the Nature Conservancy's vice president,
Vice chair.
Vice chair is also on Ogden Foods,
He-
and they
he-
own the Maui News,
Right.
and then you'd see Dow Chemical, all that stuff. I believe our Maui News is doing the very best that it can. But in this environment of growth, that whole feeling can't be denied. It can't be denied. So what do? We need to realize, and I differ in some things in that. We had two people in Guzman and in Ellie and Guzman, Don Guzman, on council. They decided they want to run for mayor. Victorino came back to run for mayor. I wonder if we're moving chairs around the ship of the Titanic. And that's the reason that I think that, I hear this Ohana candidate. That's good because it helps people. It's like giving them a chance to see and focus one place and read about
a
these
slate,
people.
basically.
Yeah, but that's the thing, getting out there and registering and vote. And if you're registered, all this week you can go down to the Wailuku Community Center, Velma Santos Community Center there in the middle of Wailuku, and vote. Register and vote. Even if you haven't registered, you can go and do it and vote the same
You
day.
can do it on Saturday at the poll. You
That's
can
right.
register if you
So
bring
this
your
is
state
a
ID.
fantastic
And
time. Yeah. And it's an amazing time. I see so much in this website. It's hard for me, as you can probably see, to choose a section to talk about because there's so much information, and I focus on the negative only to point out to people that it's important to see what's up before you think that this is some flippant thing of candidates of whatever. It isn't flippant at all. There are people that care about our island that have been here generations, Hawaiian and otherwise. And I'm sure when they feel like a slate, someone's putting them out a slate, they're all individuals, every one of them. is an individual that wants your vote. So look at them and see who they are. This website does a good job of also sharing about them.
Well,
and
there's
platforms.
the section of Your Vote Counts explains how does Maui County government work, what's the charter, the county vision statement and core principles, which incidentally read the same as what the Maui Miracle talks about, except for that, we're not doing it. And there is a very kind of sad, funny, black humor review of what's gone on in the last 2 years in the county council, with examples from the Maui News and others. The shenanigans that go on, it makes Chicago look like Disneyland. But there are bios from each of the Ohana candidates, and some of them are stronger than others, but they all bring things to the table, academic credentials that far surpass anybody who's been on the council actually in years. One of the people with in the Ohana slate has an MBA and a law degree, and other.
May I ask who that is? That Trinette?
That's Therese, actually.
Therese.
Yeah.
We have some amazing. When I look at those cards, that thing. Therese is a really
Therese Amato
talented gal.
is
Trinette Furtado, very talented, knowledgeable gal.
Therese is particularly important this season because she's running against Roz Baker, and it's the old establishment versus the new. One of the things that we're talking about here now is that, look, if the quote establishment or the guys who have been in power were doing their job properly, the situation we're faced with right now wouldn't be so lopsided.
Gotcha.
It's lopsided. The amount of development and the amount of resources that are going into development, there's other political stuff in there too that's not very happy, but we're going so far in this one direction and not far enough in the other direction at all. It makes you want to throw all of them out and start all over. And actually, Guzman and Cochran have reputations for having a balanced agenda. Both of them actually do. I don't count them in with some of these other candidates who are running, including the mayor for council. It's like, he can't get enough.
I understand the Maui News printed a letter of mine yesterday where I asked him if he was going to be despised because people realize he just wants to control. Even if he has good ideas, I would take him on as a private citizen and listen to him. I imagine you would. They all would. But that's another reason why I said Trinette Furtado, besides her being a brilliant and gifted lady.
Yeah.
I like Mike Molina, and I know he's a very capable guy, but I also know, I think of him as a crony of Alan Arakawa, and unless Tasha Kama beats Alan Arakawa, the balance of things on a council are very important, and I think a voice like Trinette would be very well taken in this climate.
That's right, but speaking about Tasha, she's a very interesting person because she actually relates more to the grassroots people of Kahului and Hawaiians than Mr. Arakawa, who seems, I think everybody would agree, that he seems more aligned to, big business and corporate interests. As a matter of fact, one of the things that really completely flipped me out is that when he fired Dave Taylor, one of the reasons in the Maui News that he cited was that Dave refused to plan for a tripling of the population of Maui. And it's like, wait a second, the island is only capable of sustaining so much. We're already beyond our numbers now.
Are we
want to
hearing
talk
this clearly?
But that's it. It's so frightening. In the website, there's actually a link to anything that's said here. There's a link, HTML link. You click it and you go to the newspaper issue that said.
Really interesting. That's the reason that I keep. That's what I said. The more research I did, I had to get nicked because he would at least be able to explain things. I had to stop looking because my stomach was starting to get crazy when I realized where we are. When I thought that the airport is going to be 430 acres of airport and what they're planning and doing is enough for another city. We don't have the carrying capacity. It's just extraordinary to see the way they plan and do and close their eyes for another 2 years and close their eyes for another 2 years and close their...
Wide-body jets landing on Maui. I remember, 26 years ago, things were smaller. It was rural Maui. It was real Maui, even before 26 years ago. And now, when the mayor talks about tripling the population of the island, I'm thinking, well, wait a second. 26 years ago and before, Maui was Maui. It's starting to get, like, if we keep adding any more shopping centers, which I don't know who wants shopping centers, I don't know who's going to shop at them.
How do you even get to them? The roads are all jammed.
That's right. But this thing about tripling
Amazon
the
is taking
population,
care of that.
and the mayor says, in order to handle the population increase, we have to build up. Well, a friend of mine said, Nick, that means 2- and 3-story buildings, and it's like, I don't know. In my mind, when I hear that, I think Honolulu. But my friend said, no, that's not what he means. Like, I don't know about that. But in any case, we are on a trajectory of what seems to be endless real estate development that is based on a Los Angeles model. Certainly the designs are identical if you go to the developers' websites that show renderings of these things. That is not the right trajectory, and this is the election that's really going to show that it's a turning point. This is the time when Maui's future is going to be determined, because if we continue where we have been going, we're already on a trajectory, and that momentum is already so powerful, it's going to be very hard to stop or slow down. And I have to say, Jason, I honestly don't believe that the other mayoral candidates in particular, I don't think they have any degree of interest in this other long-term preservation of the island that will sustain our economy. I don't think their level of interest in that is high at all.
Yeah, well, again, I'm just bringing it up to tell you, I was talking this 25 years ago about being a self-sustainability model, and they went exactly the right way.
Well, it's
exactly. If you want to know the trail to doing it, they're there now. But I believe that the Maui miracle is we're all here now, and we're going to do the right thing.
And all we have to do is show up and vote.
Yeah.
And
TheMauiMiracle.org. We got a couple of minutes. We're going to wrap it up. We only have 2 minutes total, so I know we're going to hear from our sponsor, Nick Drance. You've been really a wonderful help. Isn't he a special agent, special correspondent, Nick?
Oh, thank you. That's nice to
No,
hear.
I really think
better.
That based on what's going on in our world, younger people relate to images, and you have been a hero in my mind in
Well, thank you.
not putting your money and your time where your mouth is, and. Yeah, I couldn't explain this any better. In fact, I'm thankful that you came and decided.
This island is sacred. This is special. There's only one Maui. For centuries and centuries, the name Maui has been held as sacred throughout millions of miles of the Pacific Ocean. This is not, Houston, San Bernardino, something like that. From New Zealand to Polynesia to Hawaii, the name Maui is considered sacred. Take your Los Angeles and do that someplace else, but let's leave this one special sacred place, let's leave this place alone and not turn it into
turn it into something else.
That's right.
Now, with a minute to go, I want to be sure that we honor our other sponsor, Cash for Gold Combine, along with his little fame of seconds. This is so nice to have a soundboard like this. Nick Drance, you've been a wonderful guest. I hope that you'll join me on different radio and TV shows. And if you go to TheMauiMiracle.org, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's amazing. You may see these things around. Really, you've been a great guest. Thank you.
Aloha.
And thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We are going to see TV shows. Did you know we're planning on doing art and music out at in Wailea there, and down below, I want to say at Gannon's. We have to tell Gannon first.
That'd be good.
But we got about 30 seconds to go with the show. Thank you all for joining us. And you can spot everything on the web, MauiNeutralZone.com. You can find the shows, and this show specifically. It's been a pleasure having you. I am going to get ready to sign out, and here we go.